Hello and welcome to another episode of A Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. I'm your host, Adam, and like always, I want to thank you for tuning in, for listening and watching these amazing episodes. I have amazing guests, and tonight is not the exception. Today, I have all the way from Austin, Texas, Cassandra Robinson. Cassandra, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me on the show, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your time because looking at your LinkedIn, your profile, and everything you do, you're very busy. So for you to give me this a couple of minutes of your time on a Tuesday morning, trust me, I truly value it. So thank you so much. And talking a little bit off the line before we came on the recording, we have many things in common. And one of those things is, we're both Jesus lovers, right? Which we're going to get into it a little bit later on. But I want to just talk about, there's a lot going on your LinkedIn profile. There's a lot that just catches the attention. It captures of what you're trying to do. To start with, you have in bold letters, it says brand builders for believers, right? So what exactly is the idea behind that, and how does that come about?
Of course, as soon as we start talking, there's landscaping outside, so you probably can hear that. It always seems to.
You're fine.
So anyways, brand builder for believers. Yeah, that, actually, I'd like to take a step back for a moment, Adam, and say, my journey on LinkedIn started about 2.5 years ago after my husband and I moved cross country from San Diego to Austin, Texas. I had a few corporate jobs, 3 corporate jobs in about 4 years, and I was really struggling to find my place, in the world and in a workplace specifically. I didn't find that my creative skills and my perspective was as valued in the corporate world. So, when I moved, I had this idea, I'm going to start networking on LinkedIn. I really felt this urge, Adam, to share my message, my story with the world, right? And I had been praying to God, like, what platform, what might that be? Is that YouTube? Is that a blog? Is it a podcast? I didn't know. I just knew that I needed to share my message. So, I got on LinkedIn. I was a corporate recruiter prior to creating a small business. So I got on LinkedIn just to network. And, at that point, I joined a LinkedIn pod to create consistent content for 40 days. Actually, it was 30 days, but then I upped it to 40 days because you and I know that 40 is significant in the Bible. So I just decided to, choose 40 days. And at the same time, I was reading Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Life simultaneously as I was,
amazing book, by the way.
Amazing book, exactly. Amazing, timeless book. So simultaneously, as I'm creating content for the first time, I've never created content on social media platform before, or shared my story. I had a mentor that say, just be yourself and share what you're most passionate about, because like all of us, we struggle. Where do I start? Right? What content do I create? Who am I to create content? Who will listen? So that really helped free me when this mentor said, create content that you're most passionate about and be who you are. So for me personally, what I'm most passionate about, Adam, you and I share the same passion and love for the Lord Jesus. That's where I felt the flow come. Like, I'm just going to share content based on my personal journey of faith and how the Lord Jesus has changed my life, and in the hopes of it helping to encourage others on the platform, which is a little bit different, right? Because LinkedIn is a predominantly business centered platform. So it was a little bit outside maybe the norm and my comfort zone. That's where I really felt called to share my faith. So that's how I started. I didn't start to build a business or to build a personal brand. I actually didn't know what either of those things were at the time. I grew up with the traditional idea of success, right? You get a job, you go to school, you get your degree, and you get a job. So I didn't know that you could, build a personal brand business, or you could create digital products and all that. So I just it was sort of a experiment, creating this content. And from there, Adam, fast forward 2 years, you and I talking now, that's where it really came after creating consistent content around my faith, I started having more small business owners who were faith driven, and had a similar love for the Lord, want help to build their personal brand and start creating content on LinkedIn. So it was really an organic, progression. And for me, when I think of a personal brand, I think of our testimony as believers, right? We testify of what the Lord Jesus has done in our life and how He saved us. So really, a brand or a personal brand is your story, and your story is really your testimony. So that's what I help specifically faith-driven entrepreneurs and small business owners do, is share their story without compromising their faith and values.
Wow. That was a very insightful, very amazing information that we can probably spend the entire episode on that. And you said something very key, that everybody's life experiences, that's their brand, their testimony, that's their brand.
Exactly.
And that is amazing, and even though you say, LinkedIn is a platform for business and career and professionals, let me tell you, we all need some type of spiritual guidance in our life. We at every person at any given moment of their life in their career, whether you're an executive, VP, a floor level employee, you need some type of positive encouragement. We all need it. So even though people might say that's not the platform, you know what? Everybody has a low point in their life where they need somebody to reach out to them. They need to hear a word of encouragement. I've seen your post and you have a lot of encouraging words, motivation, uplifting. That's what we need at times. So I want to thank you for sharing that, and thank you for just putting yourself out there, because it's not very common, right? It's not common that you're teaching, you want to tackle believers, and then at the end it says you're a Jesus lover, which I think it's amazing. So going from that into something else that says, I help you unlock your voice. That is powerful. Mm-hmm. That is powerful, because that can mean many things in many different levels. It can be unlock your voice because you've been holding on to a lot of grudge of anger. It could be unlocking your voice because you have a lot to share to the world, but you just can't get out of your comfort zone. It can be unlocking your voice because you're going through some dramatic, detrimental situation at the moment, whether it's child abuse, parent, whatever it may be. So tell me a little bit. What does this mean to you? How do you help people unlock their voice?
I think you really hit it on the nail, Adam, regarding the different scenarios that could prevent someone from sharing their personal story with the world, or with a group of people that they feel called to serve. And I think that really directly relates to my experience, where I just felt this urge, right? Not everyone has this desire and urge to share the story, right? Maybe a lot of people don't. Everyone has a story, but maybe not everyone wants to share their story. So I'm specifically targeting and talking to those who genuinely feel like they have something to share with the world that can make an impact and a difference in other people's lives. They just don't know where to start, or they have childhood insecurities or wounds that are preventing them from sharing their story. So I help facilitate or create a framework for them to start creating that story. Start sharing that story and start stepping into a place of confidence and self-love to really own their story. Brene Brown says, loving ourselves through the process of owning our story is the bravest thing we will ever do. So that for me really encapsulates the work that I do with people, is creating a space for them. As a coach, we don't tell people what to do. We hold space and create space for someone to become who they were called to be. So that's really what I do for my clients in the coaching process and journey.
Oh man, own your story. Regardless of what they may be, it can be a very abusive, upbringing, whatever your story is, just own it, right? Own it. But you're right. You run into situations where people maybe they don't want to share the story. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of pain behind it, right? This is amazing, Cassandra. I'm learning so much about you. We're speaking with Cassandra Robinson, all the way from Austin, Texas. She helps you build your brand. She's a personal branding and life coach as well. She helps you unlock your voice. If anybody wants to learn more about her, visit her website. It's going to be in the bottom of your screen. But for those who are listening, it is grindingingrace.com. Grinding, GRINDIG, in grace. grace.com. It's going to be in the bottom of your screen. And also visit her LinkedIn. Send her a DM. She's on social media, LinkedIn. Visit her website. Amazing website, by the way. Videos, testimonials, information, encouraging information. Just check her out. And then also her podcast. She has a podcast. It's called, again, Grinding in Grace, available on all digital platforms. So all the information is going to be at the bottom of the screen, and we're going to continue moving forward because our time is very limited. But I want to say, you mentioned that 2 years ago, you embarked on this journey of LinkedIn and trying to see what's going to be your brand, what can you market, and almost 40,000 followers later, Cassandra, you've made an impact. You have pretty much left your footprint right on this platform on LinkedIn, and almost 40,000 followers, are in the same boat and believe what you present, believe what you bring to the table, and I want to commend you for what you do. Number one. Number two, I wish there was more like this, more people like you, who not only are you a life coach, but you really want to encourage people. You want to empower individuals, right? Own your story, get out there, unlock your voice. You can do so much better, right? And I think that's amazing, Cassandra. And I want you to just explain a little bit about to us about, you said something on your LinkedIn that caught my attention. It says, embrace your God-given potential. Because I want to believe that me personally, Adam Lopez, I have what I have and I am what I am because of God. It's not because of my personal merits, my personal strengths. Yeah, it's my skill, but who gave you that skill? Who gives you the knowledge, right? So I believe that. But tell us a little bit, what does that mean? Embrace your God-given potential.
Yeah, I think that's really a part of the journey that comes after unlocking your voice, right? If you feel that your voice is locked or it's stifled, it's hard to then step into embrace your God-given potential. So that's actually been my experience, right? Once I stepped into my calling as a writer, as a speaker, as a content creator on LinkedIn, I felt lit up. I felt more alive than I ever had before. So I really felt like I was embracing my God-given potential in a way that I hadn't experienced before, right? I was trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, or, vice versa. I was trying to fit into a mold. But once I broke out of that mold and started creating content and writing, I came alive. So in the same way, I help my clients go from unlocking their voice, right? Going from being stifled and oppressed and feeling like, they don't have something to give the world, to creating content, whether it's, videos and writing and putting themselves out there. And from there, they have the opportunity to realize and embrace their God-given potential. And that might look like being invited to podcasts like this one, or virtual conferences, right? They start to get reached out. They start to get contacted from people from their network who say, hey, I see what you're doing and it's impacting, it's making a difference in my life. And so that's what I mean by embracing your God-given potential, because like you said, Adam, we've all been given a unique set of strengths, skills, and gifts to express and represent God on the earth, and to serve those who we were called to serve. So by unlocking your voice and building your personal brand, which was just testifying of God's goodness in your life and sharing the strengths and skills he's given you, you can then embrace and step into your God-given potential.
Wow. Amazing stuff. We're speaking with Cassandra Robinson. She is a life coach, and she helps you build your brand, and embrace your God-given potential. And you're right. I believe what you just said, Cassandra, we all have a set of gifts. We've been all been giving this gift from God, your potential, your skills. I had a conversation with a colleague last week on Friday. And during the conversation, I told her, look, you have a lot of tools in your chest, right? There's going to be tools that you're never going to use. There's going to be tools you're going to need once in a while. But to get to your destination, to really find your purpose in life, you have to identify that. Number two, get the tools, identify the tools you need and begin sharpening those. Start working on those, and then you're going to have a good formula for success. Some people's, I always say this, I always try. And I say try because we're human. We're not perfect. The human element always kicks in, and we always try to do things according to our will, not his will, right? Yes. And that's when we run into a wall, right? And if you know me, those that know me, I'm very ambitious. I want to, if they give me 10 projects, I want to do 12, right? I only have 10. But I have to bring myself down and say, okay, what has the best return on investment? Where am I going to have the best impact? Where can I invest my time? Because I'm going to take away time from my family, from my daughter, from my mother, from my work. So everybody has to start thinking about these things, right? But you're right. What is your potential? Unlock that potential, embrace that potential, put it to use, because God gave it to you for a reason.
Exactly.
Put it to great use, right? So we're speaking with Cassandra. She's giving us a lot of golden nuggets of how to navigate life, how to embrace your potential, how to unlock your voice, and how to own your story. That's sticking with me this morning today, Cassandra. Own your story. It might not be a beautiful story, but you know what?
Exactly.
If somebody hears your story, you might just change their life. You never know. Let me tell you a story really quick. My mother is a 2-time cancer survivor. Okay. She's a firm believer.
Wow.
She has been committed to her faith. Her love and faith, trust in God is like none other. She has really instilled that into us, her children, right? Of how to be consistent, how to be firm, how to walk in God's way without straying to the left or to the right. And nonetheless, she has been, hit hard in life. First, 2014 with stage 4 breast cancer, 2014 bladder cancer, and she survived. She's a survivor, and she says it's all God, nothing else, all God. Here's a story for you. Here's a story. She went to go see her doctor at a clinic here in Ventura County, where I live in California. And my mother likes to wear little shawls, whatever these shawls, I think they're called, right?
Yes.
That morning when she left the office, she forgot it. She forgot it, and she left it in the clinic. As she was getting to her car, she had to go down the elevator, walk to her car, and she says, I forgot my shawl. She could have easily said, you know what, I'll pick it up next week. I'll call, right? But there was a feeling right here.
Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah.
You need to go back.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna go back. So she went back. She got her shawl. She stepped in the elevator. There's this African-American lady there standing in the elevator, sobbing. She's crying. And my mother felt compelled to ask, are you okay?
Right.
And then she said, I was just informed that I have, stage 4 breast cancer. So then my mom says, let me tell you a story. So my mom told her the story and said, I went through this, I went through that, and I went through this. I go, if God healed me, he can heal you. If God did it for me, he can do it for you. My mom tells me that this woman's face went from devastation to a glimpse of hope. And she hugged my mom and she says, thank you, because I needed to hear that, because I don't know what would have happened or I would have done, when I got in my car. So what I'm trying to tell you is this, that we all have a story. And even though it may not be a pretty story, it might change somebody's life. And these opportunities that God puts in our way, when you get a feeling here, when you're in your car and you see somebody asking for money, when you're in the grocery store and you see an elderly lady, or you see an underprivileged mother with their child, and you have a feeling like, let me pay for her groceries, or let me pay for their dinner. Don't ignore that. We should not ignore that. Cassandra, I'm going to tell you right now, many times I've had that feeling, and then I drive home kicking myself in the butt. Why didn't I help them? Why did I hold back? And I firmly believe that God puts these opportunities in front of our path every single day to 100%. see really if we are going to be doing the right thing. I always say this, we can't change the world alone, but one act of kindness every day will definitely make a difference, right? So own your story. Let's own our story, whatever it is, because it can change somebody, right? Embrace, unlock your voice. This is stuff that you teach and you preach, Cassandra. And I'm sure that it's having an impact on me. And I'm not perfect. And I'm sure that many people that listen to this stuff really, really, it hits home. And this really, guides them the right direction to start making changes, in their life. We're speaking with Cassandra Robinson, all the way from Austin, Texas. She is a brand builder for believers. She's a personal branding and life coach as well. She helps you unlock your voice. If anybody wants to learn more about Cassandra and everything she's doing, upcoming events, and just look at some past videos, or a content, visit her website. It's going to be in the bottom of your screen. It's grindingingrace.com. And also her podcast is called the same, Grinding in Grace podcast, available on all digital platforms. And also follow her on LinkedIn, on social media. You're going to be very, very impressed and encouraged with the content that she's putting out there. So Cassandra, we're already at the end of this interview. I just we'll have one last question, a segue to this last question that I have for you. I want to talk about network and circle of friends.
Great.
People who encourage you, who motivate you. How important is it to you, or would you say important is it to have that network, that circle of friends who encourage you, who will be your number one fans, but also be your number one critiques, who will give you the good and the bad. How important is that, do you think, for anybody in any type of career?
Oh man, Adam, where do we begin, right? I mean, it's incredibly important to be surrounded by people who can speak life into you, encourage you, especially on the days that you're at your lowest point, you're not feeling really like, putting yourself out there, creating content, or going to your job, quote unquote. We all have those days, right? That we're off, not really feeling it. But those people that come, rain or shine, day in, day out, they speak to you and remind you of your God-given potential and can encourage you. So I absolutely agree, especially if you're in the online space and you're content creating, you're often putting yourself out there. That can be really draining. That can be really difficult to do. I'm sure you can relate, Adam, constantly putting yourself out there for the world to kind of, judge or critique you. You know what I mean? It can be a little bit nerve-wracking at times. So having that community, that of people that can say, hey, you know what, you are impacting lives, you are making a difference, and even if you have an off day, that's okay. That's normal. That's human.
Right.
And giving yourself that grace and space to rest and recover and come back again 100% and embrace that God-given potential like we've been talking about today. So having friends, family members, connections on social media that I've gained a lot of connections on social media. You mentioned close to 40,000, and while I don't know every one of my 40,000 connections, there's definitely I would love to, and I appreciate all those who have engaged with my content and listened to a podcast that maybe I've never talked to or met yet, and I appreciate you, and that's why I do what I do. There is, a select few in that 40,000, right, that I meet with frequently, that have become my mentors, and I meet with almost on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, who say, hey, like this is your next step, or they're far further ahead of me in business and in life, so they can really speak into me and help me avoid some of the same mistakes maybe they've made in their career and their business and their personal life. So they've really become friends, mentors, spiritual mentors and coaches. So I would definitely tell your audience and whoever is listening right now, if you don't have that, plug in and also, friends, mentors, both paid and unpaid, right, too, because I also have, a business coach too that I, pay for, and I have mentors that I, that are unpaid too. So it really takes as they say, it takes a village to raise a kid, but it also takes a village to build a business or build a personal brand as well. So yes, critical to your success.
Wow. In life. Well, you know what? I have to say, Cassandra, that you and I have never met. We really don't hardly know each other, but it's just like I reached out to you, and just like you accepted my invitation. There's, I always say there's always a divine connection. There's a divine connection always that will connect people, and I like our synergy. I like our connection. We people know what that means, right? But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your transparency, your honesty, and for sharing your heart. Sometimes, like we mentioned offline, sometimes it's difficult because you don't know what line to cross when it comes to politics, religion. Exactly. But we have to be open. When you're open and and it's organic, and this is why I'm gonna tell you, Cassandra, this is why this is called Candid Conversations, because all of my guests will be like, can you send me questions? What you can ask me? I said, well, if I want to make it real, and if I want the truth, and if I want to hear your heart, I'm just going to throw questions at you, because it's not rehearsed. It's not searched. It's not preparedness. it's true. It's impromptu. It's your heart, and it's just very, very, very real and very honest. So I want to thank you. That's what you provided today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Cassandra Robinson, all the way from Austin, Texas. She has many, many taglines, many different quotes, but a couple of them are, brand builder for believer. She's a life coach.
Yes.
She helps you unlock your voice. She helps you embrace your God-given potential. She says, own your story. And it's definitely very, very important to have that network and that circle of friends who are going to uplift you. So Cassandra, we want to thank you for your time. I'm glad we connected. I think we can have more episodes to talk a lot about more other stuff, but this is an amazing first start. And I'm looking forward to sending you one of my most coveted mugs on LinkedIn, which is a Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez mug that I'll send you as a token of appreciation for your time. And because even though you don't drink coffee or tea, whatever, if you do, great. If not, you can still drink water in this mug. So I want to thank you, Cassandra, for your time. Do you have any last words for our listeners?
I just want your listeners to know that your story can be a page in someone else's survival guide. And if one person could be impacted and their life changed by you sharing your story, would it be worth it? I hope the answer is yes, and I hope that you start sharing your story today.
You've been watching and listening to another episode of Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. I'm your host, Adam, and we want to thank Cassandra Robinson for her time today. Thank you, and continue watching these episodes and these amazing podcasts. Have a good day.
My pleasure. Thanks, Adam.